Welcome, everybody. Are you in pain? Are you sometimes in pain? Are you wondering what to do? Is it all in your head, like your doctors and your friends and your coworkers say? Or is there something that you can do about it? And we're going to be discussing that right after this. Welcome. This is the Life Enthusiast Health Shots podcast, restoring vitality to you and the planet. And every week I get together with Morry Zlokovich, and we talk about the mind. He is an expert in triliminals, subliminals, outliminals, inliminals, every liminal there is to liminal about. And we tend to talk in terms of fibromyalgia because the reason this all got started was I wanted to have someone that I could join me who is an expert in the mind and how the mind works and how we can calm it down, and it's a big part of why people tend to be in chronic pain. There's what they eat, there's what they drink, there's what they breathe, but there's also like what's going on in here and why can't you stop and why can't you relax? If you can relax, your body can repair. But if you're always in flight or fight mode, then you're always super tense trying to figure out what you're going to do in the next second. So with that, welcome to the show, Morry. Glad to have you joining us as usual.
Thanks, Scott. Pleasure to be here as always.
All right. And so we're going to be doing two parts. The second part was a part that Morry told me about that I wasn't really paying as much attention to as I should have. So that's going to be a surprise a little bit later. You want to stay tuned for that. And but one of the things that we do is we do talk about fibromyalgia. We have a fibromyalgia support and solution group that has over 167,300 odd members. It's growing like crazy, which means that people are getting worse and worse and worse. And so we'd like to check out the group, see if there's anybody that's got a poster or a question that we can talk about. And there is one. I'm not going to say the name because the group is private. We don't want to betray their trust. But this individual says, chronic illness comes with a lot of pain, physical, emotional, invisible. But one of the hardest parts for me has always been the guilt. But that line was why I wanted us to talk today about this, Morry. Not the I ate too much chocolate kind, the guilt that creeps in when I cancel plans again, when my partner goes to things alone, when my kids check if I'm okay before I've even said a word. It's the guilt of watching the people you love live a version of life that none of you asked for. The guilt of surviving it together and still finding moments of joy, then wondering if you've earned them. After 25 years with a bunch of this stuff, I'm not going to get into it because, again, I want this to be private. I'm slowly learning that guilt doesn't help anymore. It doesn't make me stronger or kinder. It just makes me smaller. If you live with chronic illness, I think you'll understand this one. So this is exactly what I'm concerned about, is how can we make this guilt go away? And how can we deal with the guilt? Maybe it never goes away, but how do we survive it? How do we stop it from making life worse?
Wow, that's pretty relevant to many aspects, and I'm sure many people.
Yeah.
So
Even
the
if you
thing,
don't have fibromyalgia, you're dealing with guilt, right?
yeah. Well, look, there's guilt of the people that are there with you as well that feel guilty because they don't have the pain.
Yes.
And they feel like, why me? Why me? I see other people walking around. I remember I was like this for most of my life. I'd be hobbling along on the street and I'd see people who look like they should be. I mean, it's terrible to say, but when you're in pain all the time, and I'm sure many of you understand this, you kind of look at other people who might be, say, heavier than you are, walking with a very bad posture, but they're walking fine. Like they look like they're pain free. They look like they're not suffering at all. And in the meantime,
Or
you
worse, Morry, they're laughing and they're obviously
oh,
enjoying
that's
their
the worst.
time.
Yeah. And you kind of wonder, you go, well, I'm not like that. How come I'm in pain and they're fine? First of all, this is part of the problem with pain. It's part of the problem with guilt, that we kind of orient everything from our perspective. So that kind of makes us the star of the movie of life, and everybody else are nothing but extras. So we don't really know what these people live with. We don't know what these people are doing. They might be dealing with excruciating pain at that moment, but they've learned that laughter is better than crying. So they laugh. And we're just interpreting it as, well, why do they have the right to be happy and I don't have the right to be happy? The other end of it is, like you were saying with this individual, there's the guilt of, look at this, I'm making my kids, like, who should be enjoying life. They're young, they're youthful, they should be getting joy out of life. Instead, they're worried to go out with their friends because dad might need me or mom might need me. Uh,
Right.
Partner, same difference. We got married, we love each other, everything was pretty good. And then this happened. And they still love me and I love them, but it's almost like I feel guilty that I'm making their life less valuable, less enjoyable because they love me. And when they see me in pain, they don't feel good about it. They feel terrible about it. Why can't I help my husband or my wife or my kids or whatever it is? So there's a lot of mental anguish that goes on. And much like making a fist, like, I'm not going to ask any of you to do this, but imagine you're making a fist. So right now I'm making a fist. It doesn't hurt. I can relax it. I'm fine. But if I make a fist and I hold this for a few minutes or half an hour, my hand's going to ache.
Yeah.
It's in intense pain. And that's what you're doing to yourself. You're tensing yourself. You're making the fist, so to speak. But instead of using that fist to fight, that fist is a sign of giving up. It's a stress that creates more stress, which then creates more pain. So it's not that your pain is imaginary, because a lot of people believe that. My wife has an autoimmune issue called hyperosmia, where she can smell things other people can't. And certain smells
Mhm.
are nauseous and give her migraine headaches, and it's terrible.
Right.
You and I is just a smell. You can't, like you said it before, you can't know what it's like unless you're actually experiencing it. And I don't believe that that experience is the same as the next person over from me either. So my experience with fibromyalgia may be totally different than yours. Some people might live with fibromyalgia on a general level. I'm always achy, I'm always in pain. Other people might be okay part of the time and then in excruciating pain the rest of the time.
Right. And you're absolutely right. In our group, people are talking about, I felt really good today, so I cleaned the house and now I can't get off the couch. I am in so much pain. And others are, I can't get off the couch. I'm in so much pain and it's 24/7. And others are, I felt really good, so I went for a run and now my whole body is aching. Or I haven't had a beer in 6 months and I decided I'd go with my friends and have a beer. And now I just feel, my everything is flaring up. And, so they all have you're right, they all have very different experiences, and it's hard for them in our group. It's actually hard for the members of the group to understand that person's experience could even be correct. I mean, must be wrong because I have fibromyalgia and this is my experience, right?
Right. That's
Sometimes
the
we have to be
problem.
referees.
Well, fibromyalgia isn't a cold. Most people who get a cold get the sniffles. They may get a bit of a sore throat. Pretty
uh,
standard,
yeah.
right? Fibromyalgia is like turning on a light switch, and some people keep the light on for too long, and some people flicker it on and off all the time. And I mean, there's just many different ways that you can experience these things. The important thing is to remember that regardless of what other people might think or how little understanding they have, you know what's real for you, and it is 100% real.
Right.
So don't you dare feel guilty. Like, I'm not ordering you here, but I'm trying to help you understand that there is no reason to feel guilty for what you're experiencing. There's something that can teach you, believe it or not. There's some benefit that you can get from this. I know it doesn't look that way now, but if you actually start looking for a benefit, you look for, like, think about it. All of you, I would venture to say, have more patience than pretty much any of the people who you're apparently feeling guilty about. Because look at what you've gone through, and look at what you continue to go through, and yet you still are here.
Right. So, Morry, it's easy enough for us to sit here and say, okay, don't feel guilty. What are some steps that they could take? Um, and for me, what comes up first, because I just threw this question at you, I'll give you a second to think about it, is pattern interrupts. It's like, okay, um, first of all, you have to be aware. Oh man, I feel really guilty because my kids just came in. Well, what is something I could do? So also habits, right? My habit is I feel guilty when my kids come in to check on me or whatever the situation is. So what could I do instead? Could I make a big smile? Could I find, a book of jokes, and every time they come in to check on me, I'm going to tell them a joke? Could, like, what can we substitute for the behavior that's not good? Because just sitting here and going, oh, I'm in pain, and now I feel guilty because my kids are feeling sad. So what
Yeah.
can I do? What can I do differently? And I realize, oh, I feel guilty. So I'm going to whistle a tune, or I'm going to tell a joke, or I'm going to, but you have to kind of have the book of jokes beside you to remind you, because it's one thing to say something and then, oh no, I forgot. Now I have more guilt.
Yeah. So in my view, it's simple but difficult, because the difficult thing is, if we let the guilt get to us, if we let it overwhelm us, then we stop everything else from happening, because we zero in on the pain and we zero in on the guilt. The trick, as far as I'm concerned, is, look, laughter releases dopamine. Dopamine feels good. You can release natural neurochemistry just by cracking a smile, even forcing a smile. Your brain doesn't know any different. It knows those muscles have been activated. It creates the chemical. Fear is a big component. It's fear about what you're doing to your family. It's fear about what's happening to yourself. Fear, 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 fear. So believe it or not, learning about what's going on, participating in the group. Yeah, there's 160,000 odd people in there, and unfortunately growing. But our goal here, Scott and mine, is that this group is out of business in a couple of years.
Right.
Like, gone. There's no members. Scott, what happened? Did we turn everyone off? They left? No, they're all feeling better. That's what the goal is. So the
That's right.
trick is to do your best to eliminate the fear. Fear involves repetitive negative thoughts. So it's like, oh, am I ever going to feel better? Am I ever going to feel better? Am I ever going to feel better? And every time you say it to yourself, you feel worse and worse and worse, because you feel more guilty and you feel more pain and you feel more stress. If you can go to these groups, do investigations, do research on pain, do research on, I mean, with AI, with Google, with all these different websites that are up, there's a lot of information out there. You can do searches in the forums and in the Facebook group for certain keywords. Like, check out home remedies. You don't know, out of 160 odd thousand people, there's probably a bunch of people who have suggested home remedies. You can
Right.
ask AI for home remedies. You can try some of these things. You can become a scientist. You can become someone who is investigating. You're no longer a victim who is sitting there getting punched in the face. Now you're fighting back, because with understanding, fear dissipates. As the fear dissipates, I believe the effects will dissipate to a degree as well. And the beautiful thing about that is, all you need to do is feel a little bit different to know that you can feel a lot different. And when you
Right.
start having that attitude, well, look, I did all this research, I've been doing all this reading. I discovered that, maybe I shouldn't be having those 6 cans of Coca-Cola every day.
Right. Yeah.
Often we do things that hurt ourselves.
Yeah. And
Don't realize.
self-sabotage is a big part of it. Right.
Yeah.
We get to a certain point. Like I wanted it 30 odd 40 years ago, have washboard abs, right? So it's like, okay, I got to eat less carbs, I got to do this, I got to do that. I started doing it, and son of a gun, if I didn't start getting like definition on my abs, first time in like my life, right? So I did what most people would do in that situation, which is I started eating donuts and I didn't exercise anymore. And then the washboard disappeared. And I actually told that story to a super popular fitness guru. But what I said at the end was, I started to see the washboard abs. Guess what I did next? And he looked at me and he said, "You quit." I said,
Yeah.
"You're right." And that's what happens to so many of us, right? If we make a good move forward, we are so comfortable in wherever we are now. I'm in tremendous pain. I'm not in pain. I'm tremendously fit. I'm not fit. It doesn't matter. We're very comfortable there. And if we do anything that takes us out of that little comfort zone, you have to be so aware of the snapback, of the self-sabotage, like whatever you want to call it, right? And it's really
Well, let me ask you a question. Let's do it from a third person perspective. So let's say I have fibromyalgia, and I'm like, whenever you come over to visit, because you're a good friend and you do, hey, is there something I can do for you? Blah blah blah. And you see my kid walk in the room and say, "Hey, Dad, just checking to see how you're doing." And I go, "I'm good, thanks." But you can see in my face that it was a tore a little bit of my heart out to see my kid like that. How would you, like, as a good friend, would you just be quiet or would you say something? And if you'd say something, what do you like? What would be your intention behind whatever you're saying to help relieve some of that emotional pain?
I think I would say, or I would ask, like, how are you really feeling? I would sit, give the person 100% of my attention, because that's something they also don't get, right? They go into the doctor, doctor, I'm in pain. They don't have to say they have fibromyalgia. Nobody knows it often, right? I'm in pain, and the doctor goes, yeah, right. You just want some opium to, blah blah blah. It's in your head. Don't, I did the blood work. You're fine. Go away. So
Yeah.
nobody, and of course, the majority of the families and the friends, they love the person, but they don't believe it either. Like, you're just lazy, right? So I would sit there, I'd give them 100% of my attention to, like, what's really going on? How are you doing? I'm not doing too good. I'm in a lot of pain. Like, anywhere in particular? Is there anything I can do to help? And sometimes I think, and I don't think this ever happens, I think what happens is fibromyalgia is a very lonely thing. People don't want to be around downers, Debbie Downers or Don Downers, right? Like that guy, he's miserable all the time. I don't want to be around him. But if you were a really good friend, it might be, you know what? I'm going to take a couple hours, go over, like, what's in your fridge? Moldy cheese, because you haven't been able to go out. All right, write a list. I'm going to go buy some groceries for you. Or, man, you haven't vacuumed this place in forever. A little side note, nothing really to do with this, but I looked after 4 dogs and 3 horses for 6 weeks on Vancouver Island about 8 years ago. And these people were remodeling the house. So the house was just like, had holes in the walls and all this sort of stuff. They had nice stuff in it, but it was obvious they were in the middle of fixing the house up. And they had these beautiful like British royal red carpets, except they were so old and faded. Like, you could see, obviously, these were really nice carpets in their day, right? So it's like 3 days before they return. I've been in this place 6 weeks, and I'm looking around. I thought, these dogs, they shed. Instead of sweeping, I'm going to vacuum. So I vacuumed. And of course, I vacuumed the carpets. And guess what? The carpets were like brand new. It just had so much fur on it that it just looked totally faded, right? I was like, oh my God, I should have done this the first day. And of course, the other thought was, why didn't they ever vacuum their carpet, right? So, but like, what can you do to help the person make it better, right? Like, there's a really nice story about this guy. He walks around his neighborhood and he sees some houses that are dilapidated, right? Like, they obviously haven't mowed the lawn and it's overgrown and everything, but people are living there. So he goes
Yeah.
and he knocks on the door, and usually it's like a 90-year-old lady that's lived there for 50 years, and there's no way she can mow the lawn, right? And he just says, I'm going to mow the lawn for you. And, oh no, I can't pay you. Or, no, 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 I'm just doing it. And actually, some people in the neighborhood get mad at him for doing it, which is really weird. But anyway, he goes and he trims and he cuts stuff back and he mows the lawn. And all of a sudden, what went from a really ugly part, an eyesore, becomes a really beautiful place. He gets a lot of value out of it personally because he's done this job. It's great. She's really, happy and thankful. And when you're of service to people, I think that's something that really helps us mentally. And so, anyway, that I think if we can be of service to our friends who are suffering, uh, that helps them and helps us, as long as they're
And
willing
you
to
know what?
accept.
Let's take that one step further. If there's a way that we can inspire those who are going through the issue, who have the pain, to figure out a way that they can be of service, that can make a massive difference. There's a lot of research that shows that in depression, one of the things that helps most in depression is helping other people.
Yep.
A lot of people, a lot of older people will get pets. They'll get a cat or a little dog or something. And the research shows that when you have something to take care of, it makes you feel better, makes you feel
Yep.
stronger. So, maybe you start off with a goldfish, even something as silly as a goldfish. But
Right.
the thing is, don't look at yourself from the perspective of, I'm like a 3-year-old baby that needs to be pampered and tended to, because you're not. You're a human being in your own right. You have value. You may not see it because you're wearing the blinders and all you're seeing
Right.
is people saying, oh, poor Morry. But it's not poor Morry unless you let it be that way. Nobody lives forever. Regardless of what pain any of us have, it's going to end eventually.
Right.
But there's a reason why we're here. And if we think about that, if we imagine the possibilities and how I can bring value to somebody else's life, then maybe there's something there. Maybe you write an article for like a neighborhood paper or something. And if you can't write because your hands hurt, now in this age, we can talk and it goes talk to text.
That's right. Does a really good
You know,
job.
yeah. So it's a matter of finding where you can give value, and everybody gives value. I was on YouTube the other day and I saw a person who was born without arms and legs,
Oh yeah.
and they were
Wow.
on stage giving a talk about confidence and self-esteem. I was crying.
Yeah. That's an incredible guy. The stuff he's done, it's
Yeah.
amazing.
I've seen people who paint with the paintbrush in their mouth or in their foot.
Or their foot. Yeah, and their foot. I've seen
Yeah.
that.
So you're an amazing human being, regardless of what you're up against, regardless of what you do. It's a matter of seeing the potential in yourself. And pain is excuse me for saying this, but pain is a bitch because it focuses our attention on it and it alone. It's like a completely annoying little egomaniac. Pay
Yeah.
attention to me and nothing else. Pay attention to me and nothing else. If you can find something else to pay attention to, and if you pay attention just to your life in general, you'll likely find that there's times when the pain isn't as bad or may not be as bad or even gone for moments at a time.
It,
And
and
if you
and I
start,
would put it a slightly different way for our fibromyalgia sufferers, and that is the pain may be still there, but you forgot about it for a bit.
there you go. And the thing is, once you start realizing that, now you can start training your brain to think of these things that take your attention away from the pain.
Right.
So maybe it is there, but maybe it doesn't have to hurt as much as it does. Maybe there's a lot you can do, not just about it because of your attitude, but to help other people too. Because think about it, if you can come up with some ways to feel a little bit better, to distract yourself, so to speak, that's a very valuable thing that you can be teaching others.
And we have 167,000 people that want to hear that story. So
Yeah.
this seems like a good time, Maury, for us to switch, and we're going to talk about the thing that we were talking about that I forgot right after this. So, all right. uh, you do a lot of work with the mind side of life and how that all works. And if anyone wants to know more about Morry's work in particular, you can go to escape-to-mexico-now.com/mind trainer pro and find out all about his programs, the triliminals and the subliminals and that sort of thing. And you had so what were we talking about that I forgot?
I have a program for that, by the way, to help you remember. So here's the thing. If you do a little bit of research online, you'll find some pretty impressive things like green. I'm wondering how many people out there, and you don't have to answer anything because I'm not going to see it from StreamYard, but how many people out there have heard of the color green? Well, probably everybody, right? We've all heard of green. There's even green in the window here, or is that turquoise? I'm not sure. I'm a bit colorblind, so for me, it's a little awkward. The thing is, it's been shown in some research that going for a walk in a forested area, green, can
There's all
help with
sorts of
pain.
different colors of green. There's
Yeah,
hundreds of colors of green.
probably even more shades. And the thing is, being exposed to that color can help pain levels. Okay. You can literally paint your room green, and then you have a beautiful room, beautiful color, very natural, and you're exposing yourself to green all the time. Believe it or not, white also has an effect. Do a little homework, look it up. What colors can I expose myself to that can help me with my experience of pain? These are colors that are amazing. And it's color. It's nothing. It
Yeah.
doesn't cost you anything. It's something you just look at. Going through a forested area or an area with lots of trees can help you as well. So if you're able to walk, then go for a short walk through the woods that might be near your house or in a park. Because or even bring a chair and sit down and, read something, read a nice book, and just sit there and surround yourself with the noises, the little chirping of the insects and the animals and the leaves rustling in the breeze.
Speaking
All
of
these things.
insects, I have a lot of mosquitoes here. So if you've seen me going like this, that's why.
Yeah, stay away from swampy areas. That would be my suggestion.
Right. Uh,
But even just
yeah,
the
but
color
being
green.
out in nature is really, really important. The
Yeah,
fresh air, the just the trees, or hug a tree. You'll feel so much better.
sure. Well, you see, it's like this. So pain can sometimes feel like a light switch, right? You flick it on and there it is. And if you can manage to flick it off, it gets better. But what if you disconnect the wire to the light switch? You can flick it on all you want and nothing's going to happen. So
Right.
that's what the idea here is. The idea is to just get a better understanding of why you feel the way you feel. I had 40 years in my life where I was seriously depressed all the time. And I got out of it by trying to learn to understand why I was feeling that way, the physiological reasoning behind it, the psychological reasoning behind it. And that's how I came up with the brainwave entrainment stuff that I use all the time and that I create. Because by understanding a problem that, and I alluded to this before, it takes away fear. And by taking away fear, that takes away a large component of the problem itself. Because fear, well, is scary, right? Fear makes us not think. Fear puts us at like a deer in the headlights. A deer should be running across the street instead of getting hit by a car. But as soon as it sees the headlights, it freaks out and it goes like that and it gets hit by a car. And there you are. It's badly injured or it's dead. It doesn't have to be that way. By understanding or getting a better understanding of why you feel the way you feel, you might put yourself into a better situation so that by understanding, you can now do things that accommodate that understanding, that allow you to feel better, that allow you to move forward in your life. I don't believe you're in pain because you're being punished. I believe there's something behind it. There's something you need to learn. There's something that you need to understand because maybe you're here to help a million people. Maybe you're here to help a billion people. And if you get distracted by the symptoms that are real, but if you let yourself get too distracted by them, then you don't get the point. It's kind of like this. If we're in a situation where a lot's happening around us, we can choose what to pay attention to. If I'm a skydiver and you're a skydiver, and Scott is a skydiver who obviously jumped out of the plane already, but let's say the three of us are skydivers and we're all up in an airplane and we're waiting to get to the height where we jump, I might say, you know what? I'm taking off this parachute. I'm going to ride the airplane down. I have no courage to jump out of an airplane. No, thank you.
That'd
Another
be me.
Right. So Scott might say, "Ooh, I can't wait to get to altitude so I can jump. This is so exciting." And then the other person might say, "Oh, I just got a text from my office. They need me back. I've totally lost my desire to do this, but I'll do it just to get it over with," and blah, blah, blah. So we have the same stimulation, the excitement of jumping out of an airplane, and three totally different responses,
And
reactions.
there's a fourth person on the plane, Morry, that we didn't tell you about, and he's decided he's going to jump out with no parachute, and he's going to trust you with your parachute to jump after him and catch him, and the two of you are going to take the parachute down together. And that was a video I
Oh,
watched 2 days ago, right? This guy jumps out,
oh, wow.
no parachute. Another guy jumps out with the parachute. They fall for, they do their fall thing, and there's somebody filming the whole thing. And then the guy gets onto him. I think they probably strap him or something. You can't tell what they're doing. And then the parachute goes up, and then you have the next
Wow.
thing you know, they're landing on the beach. And it was like, how insane do you have to be, right? But they did it. So
Wow,
that's a
that's
whole
nuts.
new level of excitement and
Sure. But the
crazy.
idea is that there's different reactions for different types of stimulation. So
Yeah.
that means that, believe it or not, you can probably find other reactions for the stimulation you have as well. And
And
just
what
by
about if I
changing
don't
it a
want any
little.
stimulation? Like, what if I'm constantly, my brain just doesn't stop and the light switch is flicking on and on and off, and
Yeah.
I just need to be able to relax so my body can repair itself?
That, you see, and that's difficult to do because, like we already discussed, how pain can be a real bitch. It's a spoiled kid a spoiled brat who wants all your attention. There are things you can do. There's forms of breathing. Everyone should be looking up box breathing
Right.
online and how to do it. There's YouTube videos. There's experts, exactly. There's experts out there that will guide you through how to do different types of breathing. Breathing can be very good like that because in order to breathe in a specific pattern, you have to really concentrate.
Hmm.
I can't
And
tell
you
you
go
how
into
many.
an altered state. You definitely
Yes.
go into an altered state.
Yeah. Oh,
Uh,
yeah. And you're distracting yourself because you're concentrating and you're going to be drawn out by the pain too sometimes. But when you practice, the more you practice, the more you'll be able to get into it. I personally use my recordings because that requires no effort on my part. I
right.
just sit quietly or I lay down and I put on the headphones and I hit play, and then everything happens automatically. So
And you
if you
can
have the
find
ability,
you can find those at escapetomexiconow.com/mind trainer pro. And there's lots of information about that. And I mean, I feel the same way. Like for years, I used to listen to um, crystal bowls, right? And
beautiful.
then and ohms, and then sometimes just a guided meditation. There's the ocean waves, and this person's talking in a nice, non-stressful way. Or sometimes it's just really meditative type music, and of course your
Mhm.
triliminals have been wonderful. It's for relaxing and focusing me. So,
Well, they're
you know, I,
very distracting because there's a lot of stimulation in there, and it replaces your awareness just to take it all in. Ends up getting directed towards the triliminal and away from the other stuff.
right. Cool. All right. So there are things that you can do. There are things that you can try. And I think we've covered a really good cross section of them today, Morry. I want to thank you very much for joining us, taking time out of your busy day. And I want to thank everybody else for joining us because without you, we're just talking to ourselves in the ether, and we really want to make a difference. And
Yeah.
I really believe you are, Morry. So thank you so much for joining us. That's a wrap for this time. Make sure you join us Wednesdays at 2:30 Eastern. Martin and I get together and talk about all sorts of health, nutritional health type stuff. And we hope to see you there. And this has been the Life Enthusiast Health Shots podcast, restoring vitality to you and the planet. And we'll see you next time, everybody. Bye-bye.